So, hi, thanks for joining me. Now, today I'm delighted to have with me Katie Rickson, who is a copywriter based in Auckland in New Zealand. And today, Katie's going to be sharing her thoughts on why mental health is almost as important as everything else you do in your self-employed life. So, welcome, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me, Carl. It's great to
Um,
be here.
Brilliant. Now, what we're going to do is kick off. Katie's going to be talking. I've got a bunch of questions that I've sent over. So, we're also going to be doing other bits and pieces on top of that too. So, Katie, for those who don't know you, could you start by telling us a bit about what you do and how long you've been self-employed?
Sure. So I am a copywriter and editor. I mainly tell stories. So I tell business stories through blogs and case studies and annual reports. And I also help people tell their own stories through books. And recently I have launched another business called Business in the Bath, where I train organizations on bipolar and how to create more kinder and inclusive workplaces. And I've been self-employed for the last 9 years now.
Okay, so what did I mean? Did you know that you were going to end up working for yourself, or did it sort of make sense or happen naturally?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was that I was going to end up self-employed. I had just finished my degree in drama and writing, and those were two passions of mine, but I wasn't quite sure what I'd end up doing with them. But 9 years ago, two things happened. I I gave birth to our daughter, so I've been a mum for 9 years as well. And also during that time, I was diagnosed with bipolar. So those two things kind of coincided, and self-employment turned out to be the route that I took.
So, taking into account what you're juggling as a parent, what does a typical day look like for you?
Sure. So I work very much inside those school hours as much as I can. So I'll drop my daughter off at school. I try and have an hour kind of easing into the day where I do set myself up with a good breakfast, do a bit of journaling, maybe morning pages, move my body a little bit, and then I'll do focus work for about 4 hours. So as a writer, I get into that flow state, so I need like quite a chunky amount of time where I focus on my writing work. Um, every day is quite different. I try and have one day a week where I focus on the business, and I try and fit in the networking as well. But generally, Tuesday to Thursdays, I'm working on client tasks, and Monday and Friday, I'm doing working on the business and doing all the other things that I need to do to keep me well and keep me sane. You know, the boot camp and the catching up with friends and counseling and all the other appointments that being a human requires.
Yeah, I mean that's what it would look like for many people if they were taking. I mean, you seem to take a very balanced approach to your work. That balance between stuff for you, stuff for the business, stuff for clients. Um,
Mm,
I know from my own experience that for me, and I know this from the research that I've done, is of most men will do stuff for the business and stuff for clients and neglect themselves. But we'll come on to that.
mm,
Um,
mm.
so, how does your bipolar um, affect the way you work? And did that influence how did that influence your decision to become self-employed?
It definitely does impact my work and being self-employed. Um, although I have to say that becoming self-employed was quite an organic thing. I can't pinpoint the decision to work for myself to any kind of one moment. I was fortunate enough that when I was working while studying, and while I was working there, I met somebody who was a graphic designer, and he wanted somebody to come alongside him and do the writing side of his business. So in the early years, it was quite organic. Um, but over the years, I've realized that self-employment is really good for my mental health, for managing my bipolar, because I get to structure my days. I get to structure my rhythms and the rituals that keep me well. And I can take mental health days or mental health weeks, even if I need it, without feeling guilty or without having to ask somebody's permission. But at the same time, also making sure that I'm meeting my deadlines and my clients' expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that I've always realized that as a major difference between self-employment and being employed is that, when you're one of the challenges with taking time off if you're not well when you're self-employed is that if you can't work, in many cases you can't earn.
Yes.
Whereas if you work for an employer, if you have to take sick days for whatever reason, you're still getting paid.
Mm,
And I think I know that's one of the key things that many people overlook. There are many people who've not been self-employed, don't seem to understand when you become self-employed. If you can't earn, if you can't work, you can't earn. It's very,
yes.
um, what shall we say, very binary. You don't work, you don't get paid. Um,
Mm.
so, so do you find it that a struggle to balance that, or is it just something you've managed to naturally ease into and find it quite straightforward now?
Yeah. I mean, over the last 4 or 5 years, I've built up a team of subcontractors that
Hmm.
I've got one that I give a lot of work to, and there've been others that have kind of come and gone. So I've been able to balance out my time for rest by but um, still keeping the earning capacity there and still keeping the ball rolling. So that's been really crucial for me. I think I also build in the sick leave or the annual leave into my pricing as well.
Hmm.
I was able to do a pricing course through Natalie Coombe a few years back, and she talks about like making sure that your pricing incorporates your annual leave and your sick pay, so that you still um, you're not stuck if you do or when you need to take sick leave. So it's kind of factoring those things into the overall pricing structure and
You, to be honest, of all the people I've spoken with over the years, you're the first person to say that. Factoring your
really.
sick leave and holidays into your pricing. That's just mad. And it's something that hadn't occurred to me until only about 6 or 7 years ago. I've been self-employed on and off for most of my adult life. Um, so, but you're the first person to say it out loud, is factoring in, your holidays and time that you may need to take off.
Yeah.
So yeah, there we go. Important less.
I mean, I haven't done it perfectly, and this year in particular, as the economy's been really tough, um, that's been tough too in terms of cash flow. So it's not something that I've mastered yet, but it's
Mhm.
something that's there in the back of my mind. Like annual income, annual revenue that I need to make and the profit in order to be able to, um, work the number of hours that I have capacity to work.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it really it has built-in flexibility. So some weeks I feel like I'm smashing it and I can do more, and then other weeks I'll pull back. So it kind of works out across a month, an average. Um, so rather than, every day I have to be meeting this benchmark or meeting this amount, I factor it across the month.
No, that's a great way of viewing it. That's a great way of viewing it. I know from my own point of view, I benchmark every single day, and I probably think slightly longer term. How much have I accomplished this week and this month?
Mm,
And and I know that it's easy to be hard on yourself when you don't feel like you're meeting those standards you have in your head, but ultimately they're your
mm,
standards. You know,
yeah.
one of the joys I've always found about being self-employed is you don't have a boss watching every single thing you do, and hopefully no boss is like that, but there are a few out there.
Mm, yes.
Um, okay, so something you said during our last discussion was that you believe that being self-employed can actually be good for your mental health. Now, I'd never heard that before. I just think that's such an interesting view on things. Can you tell me more?
Well, I I've come to believe that work can be a source of harm or a source of joy,
Mhm.
and we can create work to be a source of joy. And I think that's much more available to us when we're self-employed. So again, you can build into your days how, when, where you work.
Mhm.
So, as long as the outcome is polished and of high quality, it doesn't matter if you did it in your pajamas in bed. Like, you know, um, the idea of being professional has changed over the years. Um, so I base it on the quality of my output, and you know, being self-employed, you get to choose who you work with to some extent. And if a relationship is no longer working, you can like politely exit. Whereas that's a lot harder to do if you're employed. You don't get
Mhm.
to decide who your partners or your clients are. So I think having that autonomy and having that say in what your work looks like and how your days look like has been really good for my mental health, because I get sick when I feel trapped or if I feel like put in a box. I
Mhm.
feel like there's a lot of uh, room to grow and a lot of room to experiment when you're self-employed.
Yeah, and it's something that always makes me smile, but something that was said to me by my first business coach, gosh, 15 plus years ago now. He says, when you're self-employed, it's great. You get to choose the 12 hours a day you work. And and then sometimes I know you may not have this, but I certainly felt like that at times. But you're right, you can absolutely choose who you work with. As a good example, a friend of mine who is a tax specialist in the UK, she's just in the process of firing a client because he's bordering on doing something, wants to do something illegal in terms of
Oh,
tax avoidance, and she wants nothing to do with it. And whereas if she was working for a company and this company insisted on keeping this client, then she'd have to just suck it up and see how it went. But she's
yeah.
got that. She's got that opportunity to say no. I don't want to do business with you anymore. Obviously, maybe not in such a blunt fashion, but
Mm,
you let them down gently. But um, but yes, that again is another important consideration with being self-employed. You do for the most part get to choose who you work with, and if you've
yes.
got people you work with, you can choose your colleagues. Whereas if
Yes.
you're working for somebody else, the person who sits next to you is not up to you.
Mm.
Um, so again, another big, big deal. So
Even down to the environment as well, Carl. Like you can um, control the sensory environment. Like for me, open plan working was not good. Like I found it too overstimulating. Whereas when you're self-employed, you can have some much more control over your environment.
so how's your desk? Does it look like a 3-year-old has been playing, or is it nice, neat, and ordered?
It's terrible at the moment. It's got stuff all over it. It looks like several 3-year-olds have been playing on it.
I shared when I had my web design business 10 years ago. I shared an office with a very good friend of mine, and we both had separate businesses. And his side of the room literally looked like a couple of 3-year-olds had been in there for 6 hours on a play session. And my desk was all nice and neatly stacked. My workspace was clear apart from my computer and the notes that I was making. And I have to admit, it really, really got under my skin because whilst I have clutter, it gets to me after a while. But that's
Mm,
okay. I mean, again, you're right. You do get to organize your environment the way you want. You put pictures up that inspire you and keep you grounded. If that's what you want, you couldn't do that necessarily in someone else's office. Uh,
mm.
so yeah, that's a very valid point. Um, so thinking a little bit more about your bipolar now, it's not an unreasonable assumption to think that managing bipolar would make self-employment harder. But you've said it's helped you. Um, how do you feel that actually works for you? I know you've touched on it, but I'd like to just to expand on that a little bit more because I think this is being a lot of people in self-employment, and I've been guilty. I suffered from depression 17 years ago. I didn't know I was
Mm,
depressed. I was running a small business, and it really, it ended up having not quite a breakdown, but I had a couple of panic attacks and I realized there was something wrong. And so, but I just shuffled under the rug, how I was feeling. I just thought it was all part of the
Mm.
highs and lows of being self-employed, but it clearly wasn't. There was something bigger going on. So tell me more about, what this looking after your mental health means to you, particularly considering your bipolar.
Mm. I think it's about knowing the supports that I need and um, being able to ramp up my self-care when I need to. Um, building up that support crew around you. You've got your support crew in business, like your subcontractors or your mentors or your coach, but also the support crew for your physical and mental health. So having a great relationship with your doctor, um, being able to access counseling or therapy, and yeah, just having an understanding of what you need and being able to ask for it and access it. So um, yeah, without those people in as part of my crew, I think I would really struggle. Um, Even though we're self-employed and or we're solopreneurs, there's always people around us. Like we might be the face of our business, but there's people all around, and I think that's been so crucial for my managing my bipolar and my mental health in general is, you know, going to the networking things, choosing to go to conferences, meeting up for coffee and getting that social connection, which you have to be really intentional about if you're self-employed because
Hmm.
you don't have that built-in team, you don't have that built-in culture. So actually seeking out those opportunities to connect with other people that might be in a similar boat or going through similar challenges or successes and having a safe group of people or several safe groups of people where you can share your wins and say, oh, this is what I'm struggling with at the moment. And I think it's been really important. It's really important to have that that people contact. Otherwise, it gets very lonely, and not just for people with bipolar, but being self-employed in general.
Yeah, it's interesting because I did a survey in a networking event, oh gosh, nigh on 10 years ago now. And over half the people in the room, when asked, go to networking events, not necessarily because they need the work, but just because they need the human connection.
Mm,
They need that interaction because sitting at your kitchen table or in a spare room with a desk in it, you're right, it can
mm,
be very, very lonely. And
mm,
this is an underappreciated aspect of being self-employed. When you go to the office 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, you're constantly surrounded by people. If you need, a few minutes just to bounce an idea off of somebody, you've got people on
mm,
tap. When you're
mm,
self-employed, it's not that simple. Um,
mm.
so yeah, having people around is a key thing, um, and making and you do have to be deliberate. You're
Mm.
absolutely right. It's not going to come to you. So moving on a little. So are there any tools, habits, or techniques that you rely on to manage your energy and your focus? I've done a little bit of research into bipolar, and I know sometimes it can be amazingly high and then something for some people crushingly low.
Mm.
What things do you do or tools do you rely on that try to even this out?
Yeah. So there are a few things I swear by gratitude journaling. So writing at least three things that I'm grateful for every day. Um, and at the end of the day, reflecting on your wins and what went well.
Hmm.
Uh, I practice a self-compassion mantra, which is from Dr. Kristin Neff.
Yeah,
And have you heard of it, Carl? Have you?
I'm on her email list. I've watched some of her
Oh, awesome.
videos, so yes.
Yeah. So, it's about kind of self-soothing and talking yourself down from that, heightened state. So acknowledging that you're hurting and showing yourself some self-compassion.
Mhm.
Because so often we can be so mean to ourselves. Like if our energy is low or if we're going through feeling quite emotional, we can pile it on, with the
Yes.
guilt and the self-criticism, like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling like this, or, you know, I'm overreacting or I'm being too sensitive, but that's really counterproductive.
Mm.
You've got to
Yeah.
be kind to yourself when you're struggling. You've got to be able to soothe yourself and regulate yourself. Um, so there's another technique called sensory modulation, which is when you use your senses to either uh, soothe yourself, calm yourself, or energize yourself. So these are things that we probably do all the time without knowing that that's the word for it. But
Hmm.
um, it's things like having a hot drink or even having a cold drink, splashing cold water on our face, putting our feet in the sand, getting ourselves out of our head and back into our body. Um, so yeah, just being really kind and gentle and compassionate with myself, trying to dial down that inner critic that wants to kind of keep you stuck in those negative thought patterns. And counseling has been such a great tool for me. And what I love about counseling or therapy is that my therapist said that when people go to counseling, they're either pushed by pain or they're pulled by growth. So you might go there because you're stuck in this um, painful pattern, but then as you continue with therapy, you're actually pulled by growth. So I'm in that pulled by growth phase where
Wow.
I can see my progress. I can see yeah, all of the things that I've done over the years to improve my situation or improve my relationships.
That's amazing because yeah, I knew that people typically go to counseling or therapy if they're having a hard time, but it had never occurred to me that the flip side of that is also true, where you can go from struggle to, progress through therapy. And then therapy becomes what shall we say, a driver for further progress. That's a brilliant way of looking at it.
Mm.
I'm gonna make a note of that because I really like that way of thinking. So,
Because so many people think that therapy is like if you access therapy, then you're weak. But no, it can make you so strong.
well, if you think about it, if you because you could all of the most successful people in the world have outside influences. Many, every successful athlete has coaches. They also have mindset coaches and things like that. And so, the space between your ears is acknowledged by pretty much anybody who's achieved any level of success as absolutely key. And just because we're self-employed, it doesn't make it any less important. But so
Mm,
few of us actually access it unless, as you say, we're driven to it by pain or trauma. And that was me. That was me. I didn't realize it was a problem until there was a physical manifestation of that problem. Um,
mm,
and then I realized I need to get help. But you could say, well, by that time the ship has sailed, the damage is done. But it didn't quite work like that. But and men, in my experience, are typically the worst at acknowledging that something's wrong early on to be able to try and address it. They'll wait.
mm,
They'll wait till the wheels fall off. They have a mental breakdown or relationships that are destroyed before they even contemplate getting help. And that's sadly, and I kind of fell into that. It's a well-worn path. I'd like to
mm,
think that it's changing. Can't see in the research that I'm doing and done. Can't see much evidence of that, but there is more awareness. In New Zealand
mm,
last week, it was Mental Health Awareness Week, and it was a big deal, and plenty of
mm.
people were shouting about it and posting about it, which was good. So yeah, that's brilliant. So what advice then would you give other self-employed people who are having a hard time, maybe struggling a little bit? What are the few things, the easy to do stuff that they could? I know you've talked through, the gratitude and the sensory adjustment. Um, what else for somebody who's a little less aware? Because with having bipolar, I'd imagine you have to be incredibly self-aware.
Mm.
A lot of people aren't, and I, put my hand up and say that's me a lot of the time. What would you say to others who are having a hard time, who are self-employed, particularly?
Yeah, I think actually listening into what your body or your mind is telling you so that you don't get to that point of, physical manifestations of it where it
Hmm.
doesn't reach crisis point, like check in with yourself. I think um, journaling and morning pages. Do you know about morning pages, Carl?
No, do tell.
So, so there's a book called The Artist's Way, and it's written by Julia Cameron,
Hmm.
and primarily it's about helping you kind of get in touch with your artist. But it's the morning pages has so many applications. So it's basically I think it's three A4 pages. You
Hmm.
in the morning you just fill uh, three A4 pages with a stream of consciousness. So you're just writing whatever's in your brain for those three pages.
Hmm.
And you can start being like, oh, I hate this. I don't know what to write. My hand hurts. But as you go through those pages, your kind of wisdom starts coming out.
Hmm.
The problems that you're ruminating on start to come out on the page, and then your brain naturally tries to find a solution. So the idea is that you're actually listening to what your brain is saying. You're putting it down on the page, and through the act of writing, you're starting to find solutions, or or what you're bothered about starts to kind of lose some of its weight and its power.
Hmm.
Like it can also give you a lot of perspective. Um, and the idea is like you're not meant to read it over again. You're not meant to edit it. It's not meant to look or sound pretty, but it's kind of tapping into that intuition and that voice. So you can start to listen to what your body and your mind are telling you, because it's so easy to uh, distract ourselves or numb ourselves or try and escape it or self-medicate or just, push on. We're
Yeah.
just so much, it's so ingrained in us to push on. And but if we keep on pushing on, then something, really bad could happen. So it's about trying to intervene when it's a niggle rather than like a huge issue.
And I guess it's also a way of externalizing what's going on within,
Yeah.
which for many people, going to therapy is exactly that, just being able to get it out of the system, which provides your brain that almost like that release of pressure, which for many people can have almost instant results. Like, God, I feel so much better telling you that. You haven't solved
Yeah.
anything. You've just
No.
talked about it. But I guess
Yeah.
putting it down on paper can be a very similar thing. I really like that approach. I'm gonna The Artist's Way. I've heard of that book. I've seen it referred to, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna.
Oh, I've got it here. It's there's a 12-week meant to be a 12-week course. I've I still haven't finished it, but the morning pages is something that a lot of writers do as well.
Mhm.
It helps people get out of that writer's block.
Yeah, excuse me. I guess it's one of those things where people in the creative industry don't wait for inspiration to hit them. They work until inspiration comes. And
Mm,
I remember reading about Ed Sheeran. Um, he said that he um, just writes and writes and writes ideas, and
mm,
most of them are rubbish, and the
yeah.
ones that are good are there somewhere. He doesn't just wait until
Mm,
something amazing hits him. He just writes and does all of this work until something comes
mm,
along. And I guess to some extent, what you've just talked about is a way of just releasing that pressure from the brain, getting it down onto paper, um, and then just allowing your brain space to breathe a little bit
yes.
and I guess that's what it is. You're giving your brain breathing space by getting this out, no matter how
Yeah.
messy or whatever it is. So,
And the
um,
reason why they're in the morning as well is that you're less likely to censor yourself. Like your rational brain hasn't kind of caught up. So
yeah.
you're meant to do it first thing. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's brilliant. So, a key thing then, how do you see your running your business as a part of your personal growth? I mean, you said that you saw it as kind of a logical thing to do. How's it made a contribution?
Oh, massively. It's a massive journey for personal growth, especially when you're doing most of the things yourself. You're learning how to do marketing, you're learning how to do bookkeeping, you're learning how to do direct outreach or talk about yourself and your business. And you really have to be quite confident and bold and be able to face rejection.
Hmm.
Then the number of no's that you have to get that yes, and the discomfort of following people up and the discomfort of reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn. You kind of have to push yourself outside of that comfort zone regularly. And it, like when you're employed, you kind of have a specialization, like this is your lane, this is what we expect of you. Whereas when you're self-employed, you've got to pick up all of these different skills, and
Hmm.
um, it's made me great at asking questions and great at listening and great at holding space for other people. Um, yeah, and I'm so much more confident in my abilities and my personality, and I'm very clear on who I am and what my values are. And that's very much come through being self-employed, I think.
Cool. So taking that into account, that's brilliant, and it is for many people, it's a growing experience, particularly around confidence and doing things which need to be done but are often uncomfortable for most people. And selling and marketing is a biggie. When you work for
Mm,
somebody else, the work is given to you typically. You don't have to go
mm.
out. You don't have to go and work for the work.
Yes.
Um, and that's again a big, big difference. So looking at it so far, you've been self-employed for 9 years. What would you say has been your biggest lesson about being self-employed?
To back myself and to invest in myself. Um, sometimes it's uncomfortable the money that you need to spend on that investment, piece. Like I've invested in coaches and photography and um, learning how to market, and that's quite uncomfortable to spend that money, to make money. Like you say, when you're employed, the work is given to you. But yeah, as you're learning that you've got to work to get the work and prioritizing that time as well. Like there've been, I've fallen into the trap of being spending so much time on the doing and so much time on the client tasks that sometimes my own marketing gets neglected. So yeah, backing myself and being prepared to make wise investments along the way.
I guess what a lot of people, in my experience, misunderstand about self-employment is you're it. You've got to you've got to bring a productive, upbeat, positive view as much as you can to almost everything you do. And if you don't invest in you, then those who do are going to overtake you. And this is
Mm,
and you will always be your best investment. And
mm,
thinking about it from a mental health perspective, self-care is never wasted. It's always
mm,
a good investment. So it's that
mm.
investing in you as a person in business, but also investing in you as a person in your own right, both physically
Mm.
and mentally too. And that's
Yeah,
grossly, in my view, underappreciated in the self-employed and small business world. If there's no you, there's no business ultimately.
yeah,
If you
yeah,
can't perform, you ain't going to earn. If you ain't going to earn, well,
yeah,
you have a badly paying hobby, not a business.
yeah. And it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So you've got to be able to take the rests and the pauses and the recharges, because otherwise it's not sustainable. And like you say, it's might be an upfront cost for that self-care, but the cost of burning out and not being able to work is so much greater.
So, no, you're absolutely right. So, last question. So what's been your biggest achievement in self-employment so far?
I think recently, um, I've recently self-published a pocketbook,
Hmm.
and it's been so great to have my own work in a book. I've helped other people get their books out there, and this is the first time that I've published something of my own, and I'm really proud to put it out into the world. And it looks beautiful and it reads really well. And yeah, I'm just really excited about that. And I've had several sales, and I'm launching it on properly on Saturday. And
Oh,
yeah, I
wow.
just feel very excited about that. And I believe that it will open doors for more speaking opportunities and more avenues for me to share my story. And being able to share my story is not just about like, oh, look at me, look at what I can do, but more about like you can build a successful business if you've got bipolar. You can live a really full and rewarding life if you've got bipolar. So I really want it to be a source of hope for other people that might be in a similar boat to me.
Brilliant. And when I get back to Auckland, I'm looking forward to picking up my actual in my hand copy. So consider this one a buyer. Um,
Thank you.
that's brilliant. So what I want to do is last couple of minutes. So tell people where they can find you. You tell people about where are you? If somebody wants to talk to you about what you do or your experience or book you as a speaker, particularly in New Zealand, but further afield, if they're willing to pay the expenses, then where can you be found? Tell people.
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
Katie Rickson on LinkedIn. I have two websites. So my copywriting website is just katierickson.co.nz, and my speaking and mental health advocacy work is businessinthebath.co.nz.
Okay, brilliant. And then
I
those,
also have a, sorry, Carl.
no, sorry.
Uh,
Can your book be bought online?
Yes, so you can buy my book from businessinthebath.co.nz.
Brilliant. Okay. And I'll be putting links below this video and also in the notes for the podcast. So people can go ahead and get in touch, connect with you on LinkedIn, join your wonderful email list. I absolutely love it. And it's an inspiration every single time it hits my inbox. So don't ever stop doing that. Like I said before, there's a couple of times when
Thank you.
you've brought me to tears with what you've written. So yeah, don't stop. Just keep going.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
any final words of encouragement for our readers, not readers, for our viewers, listeners? What would you say in 30 seconds based on your experience
Even
as employed?
find your people, go to the networking things, go out for coffees, connect with people online. It's really those connections that are going to sustain you, uh, whether you're self-employed or not.
Brilliant. Thank you, Katie. I really appreciate you taking the time out to speak with me today. And I know this is going to be a great benefit for a bunch of people. I've learned a few very useful things. So thank you very much indeed.